Hello, Trailblazers, and welcome to another edition of Entrepreneur Journey. I am super excited to have Abraham Kallon in the house. How are you today, Abraham?
I'm doing pretty well, Doug. Thanks for getting me up here. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
nice.
It's an honor.
I've been thinking about having you on the podcast for a long time, and I'm glad we could finally get it knocked out.
Yeah.
Uh, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, it depends on, what it is you want to know. Is it myself as in like my marketing journey, my entrepreneurial journey, or just me as a whole and like
Well,
the whole
well,
holistic
well,
thing?
give us just like a snippet of like who you are and who you serve, and we'll dive into your entrepreneur journey here in a minute,
Okay.
and some of your expertise. Just kind of who you are, who you serve, maybe a little personal stuff, whatever you want to
Okay.
share.
Yes, yeah. So my name is Abraham. Obviously, like we talked about, I'm a copywriter. Mainly, I would just basically because I do more than just copywriting. I build, plan, strategize marketing, digital marketing campaign, and help people launch them profitably. That's kind of my thing. And yeah, so I usually help business owners, small to mid-size, who are kind of having problems with their, conversions. So maybe they're getting some conversions, but they know they could do better, or they're barely breaking even. So we open up that back end, those profitable channels, and have them really make more, back than what they're putting in, so they can scale, grow their business, pay themselves better, hire new staff, get out of the business, get other people to run it for them. But basically, the lifeblood of every business is cash flow, right? And that cash flow comes from robust marketing system. So that's basically what I help them do.
Very, very, very awesome. Let's have some fun, and I have some fun questions to ask you. So,
Okay.
if a movie was made of your life, what genre would it be, and who would play you?
Oh, that's a good one. If a movie was made in my life, about my life, what thing, right? I'll be honest, I don't know much about genres of movies because
Would it
I
be
just watch them
would it
really.
be a comedy? Would it be an action flick?
It wouldn't be comedy because there's
Okay,
a lot of serious
I got you.
stuff that
Okay,
is
a
in there.
drama. Okay, a
Yes,
drama.
but I will say my whole life, that's why I kind of call my company Overachiever Media, because it'll have a lot of sadness into it and then happiness, but then it'll have the audience really cheering at the end,
Oh,
basically.
so maybe like a Remember the Titans type of thing,
Something
where
like that.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
It's like the classic hero's journey, and yeah, so yeah, that's basically what it would be.
nice. So, any favorite actors that you'd want playing you?
Ooh, let me think about this. Yeah, so it's a new one. He actually is. He acts. He does the show. Snowfall. His name is I think Demson Idris. He's from the UK. I don't really know his
Mm-hmm.
name, but I think
Mm-hmm.
that'll be the perfect guy to play. To play me in a movie for sure.
Nice, nice. So tell us what your very first job was.
Very first job. That's a good one. So it actually was as a server in a retirement home back in my junior year in high school, and that was 2005.
Nice.
2005. Yep, I was a server at a retirement home, and I used to work like 4 hours a day. Yeah, that was my first
Can
job.
you tell us anything that you liked or disliked about that?
I like the fact that I was finally making some money because me growing up, I always wanted things as a child, and I understand my parents did the best for me, but they couldn't really get me. And I remember the very first situation, I wanted a cell phone. And my
Mm.
mom was like, well, I don't have any, money to, she was, telling me she couldn't do it. So when I finally got a job, I could buy the things that I wanted. I could buy me I could buy me shoes. I could buy a new cell phone. I could buy clothes without having to, I love my mom without having to hear her like, why, this is too expensive. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the good thing. Now, the other part of it was when I went there, I liked the people that I work with because I made some new friends. But at the end of the day, it was really like at that point, I was just happy to be there. But those 4 hours seemed like eternity. That
Wow.
was the only
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah.
maybe I didn't like the job, but I liked the aspect that I was finally free, at least financially, to be able to enable myself to get the things that I wanted as a teenager.
Yeah. Same thing with me. That's why I got a job as a teenager too, because the things that I wanted, my mom said were too expensive. So I was
Yeah.
like, well, okay, if you'll let me get a job, then I'll buy them myself.
Yep. I
So
remember us one time going because I used to play soccer. I wanted to kind of, become a professional soccer player. And we went to get me a pair of soccer cleats for the school year. And everywhere we went, she just kept banging on me like, why we got to buy these? This is $150. It's too expensive. Find something for like $40, $50. So every time it was just like those words in my ear. So I'm like, finally, I can get the things I want without having to, hear the grunt of it. So yeah, that was a good thing.
Nice. So that may segue a little bit into my next question. So aside from necessities, what's one thing that you could not go a day without?
Back then or right now?
Oh, I mean, feel free to go either direction.
Yeah, the one thing that's a great question, right? Because I've kind of found a way to live my life without being attached to things, right? So, you know, how people wake up and say, I need my morning coffee. I cannot function without it. And they kind of have a nervous breakdown. So I wouldn't say there's some things I can live without, but there are some things I would rather have. If that makes sense, I'd rather have money in my bank account every day, you know, because that gives me that sense of comfort to do the things that I want to do without having to be worried about my survival mode. But another part, I couldn't go a day without really watching soccer, whether it's some highlights, whether it's like soccer news, but everything around soccer, I'm always in it, you know, and yeah, so that would be one thing as well.
Nice. I'm not a soccer fan, but and you'll probably tell me and I won't know who they are, but do you have a favorite team?
Yeah, it's actually Liverpool. It's
Okay,
in
nice.
Liverpool, England, basically. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So now let's dive into your actual entrepreneur journey of where you came from and where you are now. So tell us how you started and kind of like the cliff notes of up to where you are now.
Yeah, so it's a long one, but I will make it as short as I can.
All right.
Started in 2013, and it's crazy how this whole thing started. I think there was a girl that I was interested in that I liked, and I went to visit her one time, and she put on this movie, right? This movie was called The Secret. So she basically told me, hey, you know, there's this movie that, you know, you can manifest things. I think it's really interesting. Watch it. I watched the movie that day and I was in, right? So I started down this rabbit hole of the law of attraction, came across so many things. And that's how it kind of segued into internet marketing, making money online, not internet marketing, but making money online. So then I go down this rabbit hole of trying to make some money online, and it wasn't working because around that time I figured college wasn't for me. I hated school. I couldn't really stay motivated, but I did know. So at the end of the day, it was like, okay, what skill do I have right now that I can monetize online? So I realized all throughout my school career, I was bad at everything but writing. So when it came to writing, I will wake up. I was a procrastinator back then because I hated school. But for some reason, I wasn't getting good grades. That's not something I will say. I used to be very ashamed of it. Now I don't care. It was what it was, right? But I realized every subject I was decent at or bad. But when it came to writing, whether it was history, articles, English, you know, articles and those kind of research papers, there we go. On my worst days, I was getting B's. On my best days was A+. So I'm like, okay, I think I like to write and I have a mind that can think things through. It's funny you brought up movies. I can think things through and really like vividly write about them and keep people engaged. That's just who I was. That's just what I could do at the time. So I was trying to blog. I was trying to, it's like, well, you know, you can create a blog, get it ranked on Google and then, you know, get some traffic to it. That didn't work. I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. I need something faster. So long story short, and that before then, my cousin wanted me to write movies, right? To go back to the same thing. He's like, why don't you write a movie script? Because you know how to tell a story. You can really tell a story and keep people engaged. That was too boring. I couldn't get through it. And then long story short, finding a way to monetize this writing skill that I had, I stumbled upon copywriting. And they were like, well, it's instant, right? You write some words, you put it on the page, you can get people to buy, direct response. This is a lucrative skill. And even if you can't do it for yourself, there are people that need it and it's in high demand. Ever since then, I was in for like 4 years. I tried to learn it. I didn't have money. I was broke back then. So I was finding all the YouTube videos, you know, the articles, the email lists, the forums, trying to learn it. It just didn't work until I finally said, you know what, I'm going to go get a job. Because around that time, I was like, I'm not going to work anymore. Now I've understood this whole law of attraction thing. I could work from home. So no job for me. But I had to go get a job. So I went and got a job as a salesperson. I sold cars for a little bit, got some money, and then I started to really invest in the skill. I got my first teacher. Fast forward 2018, I got my first job as a copywriter at one of the biggest, you know, financial publishers in Baltimore. That's when I used to live in Maryland. And I worked there for like 6 months, did really well. I remember with the first interview, they're like, yeah, you're going to go far in this business. I just like your mindset. And then, you know, few months later, I got my second job with Onyx Singal, who was one of the biggest, you know, digital marketers around. I worked with him for like really one-on-one for a year. That's really what took my marketing skill now from just a basic copywriter to more of like what I said, building, strategizing, planning, marketing campaign. And here I am today, basically.
Nice. And didn't I see somewhere that you also worked for Ryan Dicey's company for a while?
Yes, I did. I did some work for them as well, digital marketer, and then obviously, traffic and funnels and those guys.
Yeah,
But yeah. I've been around the block basically.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that is super cool. I have a question, and it kind of slipped my mind about that part of your journey. So, well, let's go back to Anik Segal, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
I'm big on relationships, right? So making that connection with Anik Segal and just making connections. This really does not have a lot to do with copywriting, but just growing a business in general. So making really good connections goes a long way to helping you on your journey. So do you feel like that played a big role in progressing you as well?
That played a huge role because, and that's a whole story in itself, how I actually met Anik. 1 second, let me put this thing up. But really, when I was starting, I first came across Anik in 2016. Yes, on a Facebook ads, right? And he was talking about, I think he had this ad that went viral that really launched his career, because he's been in it for a long time, but the ad went viral because he was in a Lamborghini or something. So I started following him. And at some point, again, I didn't know much about Facebook ads. So when you click something, now you become, targeted all the time. And eventually he put out an ad saying he was looking for a copywriter. And around that time, I was still green. I didn't really know much about copywriting. So I applied, I didn't hear back, right? So this was 2016. Then a couple of years later, funny thing, when I applied before, I used to live, that's when I had just moved out of my parents' house. So I used to live, his office was literally like 2 minutes behind my apartment building.
Wow.
Right. So I didn't get the job then. Then a couple of years later, when I finally got the job as a junior copywriter in Baltimore, it was really like an hour away from where I lived. But I did it because it was a sacrifice, right? I'm like, hey, I need to go get an in-house job where I can work with experienced, successful copywriters. That's the best way I tell every newbie copywriter who wants to learn, go get an apprenticeship. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about getting paid. Think about you getting paid to learn. But, that experience is invaluable. Just being there with people who have done it and, bouncing ideas off them in that live area. That's the biggest learning you can ever have, more than any kind of online coaching program, more than any course. Go get a job in a big direct response company with people who are experienced and successful. That's how you will basically, get better. But long story short, that's what happened. And I'm there working in Baltimore, but it's starting to take a toll on me because it's just too far. I'm putting a lot of miles on my car, but I was okay with doing that. Then 3-4 months later down the line, I'm friends with Anik on LinkedIn. We're connected. And he puts out an ad and he says, not an ad, but like, regular LinkedIn organic post that he's looking for a copywriter for his new office in Rockville. Now I had moved down from Germantown to Rockville. And so I see the ad, and that's what I'm just saying. It's like a case of serendipity. So I see the post and I'm like, this is Anik. Everybody knows him. What are my prayers, right? So I ignore it. A day later, 24 hours later, I'm still scrolling my feed. It pops back up and nobody had commented on it. So I'm like, why not?
It's meant for you.
Exactly. I comment on the post and I'm like, I'm interested. I'm a copywriter and I live in Rockville. 2 minutes later, I get a direct message from him. Hey, let's talk. Send me some samples. Send him the sample. He said, okay, are you willing to get on a call right away? I get on a call. We schedule an appointment. Long story short, he hired, like a week later, I became the copywriter there. That's how that works. So it's crazy because he lived behind me a couple years later. I didn't get the job there. I'm thinking, what are the prayer? What are my chances? Secondly, this job just falls in my lap. And then, so that's basically how that worked. And just doing that, I work with a lot more successful people, just working with him as far as like JV, doing ads for Damon John, Robert Kiyosaki, all of those big entrepreneurs that he collaborated with and everything. That's kind of how that relationship was built moving forward, basically.
Nice. It is so crazy. I'm going to touch on serendipity for a minute because you've got to pay attention to those kind of things that, like, it's been happening to me just lately. Like someone, just for instance, I interviewed Chris Baden. He was the person I interviewed before you. And someone had mentioned he had been on American Ninja Warrior, right? And I was just commenting around something on social media. It had nothing to do with American Ninja Warrior or Chris Baden for that matter. And somebody said, I'm going to build an American Ninja Warrior course in my backyard. And I know it's like not like, it's not like that, like put together, but there's all kinds of little things like that that seem to have come together lately. So, but
and it's
also,
just crazy. It just becomes like, like somewhere deep down, like this one was for me. I don't care what anybody said or did. I knew this was me, and I'll say ever since then, I think that's when I kind of transitioned out of it, because it's been so, and it became like an ego thing before, because I could just get jobs like that. When I wanted to work for a big company, I could get a job. And at some point it wasn't fulfilling anymore. So I was just like, you know what, I'm not going to work jobs anymore, because 2-3 months in, I'm tired of it. So I'm just doing this thing because I know I can get it and it's my comfort zone. I need to get out of it. So
nice. Yeah. Just got to pay attention to those opportunities and seize them when they come up. So let's dive into your expertise a little bit. Let's get into copywriting, right?
Sure thing.
So can you give us a few copywriting tips that will help increase funnel conversions?
Yeah, it depends. So the first thing I would say, overall, from like your funnel is basically your front end marketing. And I think this is where most entrepreneurs who aren't really marketers kind of mistake it, right? So if you're running paid ads to a funnel, most of the time, that's what I think, because that's, basically what I do, is they want to really make a profit, right? On the front end from the funnel. But again, the funnel is mainly just automated and it's an AI thing. So human beings and AI are two different entities, right? So the best thing is like your funnel will not work for you unless you work, right? So my thing is, start putting too much pressure on the funnel to do all the work, all the marketing work and everything. Basically, it depends on what it is you're trying to get out of the funnel. If you're trying to get people to just opt in, to get a freebie so you can email them on the front end, or you want to sell them something. Email them on the back end, or you want to sell them something. That's the first thing, right? So how can I really make this funnel work without putting too much pressure on it? What do I really want? If it's just email opt-in, then get that. But the biggest thing to making a funnel work is a robust back-end system. That's why I talk about email marketing, having a Facebook group and all of those things like you do, just to kind of always keep that audience attention, no like and trust factor, but it's the omnipresent, because in this, fast-paced digital day and age, information is all over the place and people forget, right? So you got to be there all the time, keep yourself top of mind. That's the first thing. But then the second thing, if you come to the actual funnel, is think about how you kind of make it very simple. And that's how I teach copywriting, is every like long form copy from, for example, if it's like a landing page, that's the one I call short form copy from an opt-in perspective, right? So we can go into all of that. There's a formula I use to write opt-in page that get 30 to 40, even 50% opt-ins.
Let's say this, let's not give away all your secrets, because we're going to want people to reach out to you. But we're just looking for a few nuggets.
Yeah. So from your funnel, make sure the first thing is the headline, right? I'm just going to talk about that because that is the biggest thing. If your headline is not good, great, or whatever, it doesn't get attention, I don't care what you're offering in your funnel, nobody's going to see it. So how do you get attention? You have to meet people where they are. And the biggest thing is making sure your headline just get people to think that, okay, I'm interested. How can I learn? Or I'm curious, right? Just pick curiosity. And there's four things that you need in there. First off, not all the time, but you got to have an audience, right? Who are you calling out? Who are you speaking to? Who exactly? And I don't want to get into like the nuances of it, because you got to be experienced to understand, okay, sometimes you don't even have to call out the audience. The words that you use will make the audience, recognize it. But it's the call out. Who are you talking to, right? What's the benefit? What's in it for them? So is there an actual benefit tied to it? Very vivid, where they can see it very clearly. They don't have to think like, oh, what is he offering here? That, and then have power words, like words that make people exciting, simple. I'm not going to say easy, but for the lack of a better word, easy, right? Fast, like those four things that people have in there, easy, fast, simple, and all of those different things. So you want to make sure you have those in there, but basically have a clear benefit, a clear audience that you're calling out, and what's in it for them.
So would you say one of the biggest detriments to a funnel is to be vague, right?
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of people do that.
Yeah, like a lot of people will use a word like clarity, right? Clarity is different for different people.
Yeah.
So yeah, but very, very good points, man. So can you tell us what types of subject lines increase email opens?
Yeah. So, and that's another thing. I like to keep it simple, right? Because the thing is, again, it goes back to like your marketing, right? Your marketing won't work until you do. So if people know you, they like you, they trust you, and you've already indoctrinated them, because your email list is usually warm. It's warm traffic, right? By the time they meet you, it's cold, but by the time they jump on your email list, there's something about you that they already know. So make it relevant. Make it relevant to what it is you're trying to say. Now, if I was to use something, the biggest subject lines that get opens are the personal ones, right? That you put a name in, but you don't use it all the time because it's going to lose its pool. But what I will say is, like, one of the things I know is, like, for example, every once in a while, I would email a list and say, for example, Doug, I'm disappointed in you, right? So if you see that, it's like, what is he talking about? Disappointed. So all kinds of questions are going on through your mind. But the best subject lines are those that make people say, what is this, right? Ask questions, curious to want to know. And that's all it is. Nothing complicated. It could just be a very simple, hey, that's a two-step process I use, right? To make sure, like a two-step process to get the most out of my day, right? Or something about a current event. Tom Brady just retired, right? How can you use that Tom Brady retirement to make a subject line that at least connects to what it is you have to say? So really, it just has to be, make somebody, when they scroll through their email list, does it pique their interest, curious enough to make them want to read?
Yeah, not just we have a sale today.
Yeah, we have a sale today. No, it's like, oh, but here's the thing. That could work as well, right? Because it's like, we have a sale 10% off, right? And that's the thing. I think I will say there is, because I've tried so many different subject lines that work. Because at the end of the day, the biggest thing to that is getting the people to know you, like you, and trust you. Are you giving them, because there's all this debate going on around how many times do you email your list? I don't like people emailing me every day. The people who say that are not really marketers, because if you know how to email a list, right? At the end of the day, they will want to open because you give them relevant content that can bring value to their lives. They might not open it today, but there's somebody else that's going to open that email. So if they don't like it, they just unsubscribe. But people have huge lists and they're emailing them every day, sometimes twice a day. And why are they not going out of business? They will tell you their biggest revenue is coming from their email list. So I don't really listen to anybody who says, oh, don't email the list every day. Those guys are not marketers. Just email the list as much, as you need to get the point across. It's the same age-old thing about long copy, short copy. How long should your copy be? It's all the same art.
Yeah. I'm so much in agreement. If you know, like, and trust someone, you don't mind getting their emails.
Yeah.
Right. No matter how many they send.
Exactly. Because if I was in there, and like I said, I like to watch soccer every day, right? So if you give me information about what's new, I'm always like, even scouring the internet looking for something new, right? So if you gave me some information, or you were to tell me, hey, look, sign up for this list, you will get insider information every day about, what's going on in the soccer world. I'm looking to open it. And every now and then you put a pitch in there from to buy something that's related to that interest, I will do it. So, it just comes back to understanding human psychology. A lot of people and that's the problem with, like, business owners. I will talk about, goes back to the funnel. Get out of your head and get yourself in the prospect's head. All of them who will say, I don't do this or that, chances are they're marketing materials that is doing the same thing to them. They just don't know it,
Very good tip. So that may be the answer to my next question. So we may have already covered that. So the biggest mistake you see people make when it comes to writing copy.
Yeah, it goes, the first thing is vague, very vague, right? But here's the biggest thing. If you don't know how to write copy, then you just don't know, right? But the problem I see is called the curse of knowledge dilemma. That's what I like to call it. I know what I know, right? And you know what you know, and you an expert of what you know. You can explain it to another expert and people can understand, and that expert will understand it. But when you have a message, or you have an offer or a product, right, that you're selling to the masses, you can speak from that level of expertise, right? Because they won't understand it. And that's the biggest thing, because it's like, I understand all these complications. I'm just going to go talk to the market like that. Hey, here's what I've done. I've demonstrated my knowledge. See how smart I am, and all of those things. And people are looking at it like, again, it could work in a way, but for the most part, it won't, because people are looking at it like, hey, especially when you're going after cold traffic or traffic. Goes back to what I said, simple, easy. The mind always wants something that it can understand and decipher, right? So if the mind is thinking, oh, it's just too much for me to decipher, it's going to go on to the next thing. Goes back to what I'm saying. So you need to find a way to explain your product or service, right? At a third grade level, where even a third grader, if that applied to him or didn't apply to him, he can say, I know exactly what this is and it doesn't apply to me, or I know exactly what this is and yes, I want it. So that is the biggest mistake people make. It's like having to speak to their audience from their own level of expertise instead of simplifying, not watering it down, but simplifying it and speaking in third grade language that anybody can understand. What's in it for me and what does it do for me based on this? Then I can tell you if I'm the right audience, I can make that distinction. Let me basically think for me, right? A lot of people want to think, but if you can think for your audience, like I think David Garfinkel, another legendary copywriter, said it is like, who does the most work gets the money, right? So the thing is this: if your client or your audience or your ideal customer, right, has to do the work to decipher what's in it for them, they're bouncing. So at the end of the day, they get to keep their money, right? But now if you do the work for them and you explain it in a way that they understand, then you get their money because they can see it. So whoever does the most work, whoever does the work gets the money.
Nice. Great insights. Thank you so much for that. Well, Abraham, it has been great for you to share your story with us and all these great secrets on copywriting. If someone wanted to reach out to you and find out more or get in a relationship to where you can help them with their copy, where would they go to do that?
Yeah, so they can go to www.theoverachievermedia.com to get information about me and what I do and getting in touch. I'm actually building up an email list because there's been a request for it, at some point where people are asking me like, how do we learn from you and all of those different things, but that will actually be added to the site. So once they go in, if they don't not in a position to hire me yet or not ready or just want to kind of learn because they want to do it on their own, then they can join the list because I give tips all the time on copywriting. That's the first part. Or you can follow me on social media, add me on Facebook, Abraham Kallon, or LinkedIn, same thing, Abraham Kallon.
Nice. So definitely, I know Abraham a little bit, and you can already tell like he knows his stuff when it comes to copy. So if you're looking for an experienced copywriter that will take your business to the next level, he's the guy. So definitely reach out to him. Any parting last words for the entrepreneurs?
Well, first of all, Doug, I want to say thank you, a huge thank you for giving me an opportunity to be on your platform and really share my knowledge. I'm really honored for that. Secondly, entrepreneurs don't need any motivation, right? We already know it is already built within us. So they just keep going. So many times you think you have it all figured out. We all don't. Even the most successful one questions himself every time. So that's all part of the journey. But the one thing we all know is we just keep going because we're stupid, right? So that's basically it.
Yep. We as entrepreneurs will run our heads into the wall until we open it up, or we'll actually go through the door that's right next to it.
Yep.
It's just what we do. So thank you again, Abraham. And until next time, trailblazers, keep blazing your trail.
Awesome. Thank you.